Actually, there is a disparity on both sides, right, between our volumes, but we've never taken the time to figure it out.
Oh, okay. Are we? Is one louder? Or... Oh, do you know why? The gain's really down on my. It's like I've changed the gain and the volume around the wrong way. So. Hey, world. Okay. Cue the sirens. Coming to the barrier near you where we have crashed. It is the F1 Failcast edition here at Monte Carlo. And alongside me, as usual, is the man preparing for his own accident over there, Mr. Esteban. How you doing?
Pip, pip, old boy. Good to see you. Well, hear you. How are things?
Things are rather well, actually. It's been quite a joyous couple of weeks. I didn't lose my job. That was good, because that was on the cards Tuesday. Had a date that went vaguely well. That's gone quite good as well. And I'm here doing an F1 podcast with one of my besties. So what's not to love?
The icing on the cake. I do like that. No, that's really good, man. I'm glad you've had a good week.
How about you? You feeling better?
I'm still a little under the weather, actually, with my health, but it's not been too bad. I've had a few whiskies. I had some friends over last night for a very nerdy evening of card games and board games and watching season 1 of The Orville, which if you haven't seen, I would recommend.
That's not like Orville the Green Duck, is it?
No, well, there is a character on there which, if you coloured green, would look vaguely like Orville the Duck. No, it's the Star Trek ripoff by Seth MacFarlane, but it's actually really good.
I didn't know that's what it was called. Okay.
You have to get through the pilot episode. It only really gets good from episode 2, but it is actually really good. Well worth a look. So we are in Monaco, which historically means pain.
Yeah.
I believe that's actually the translation of the name.
Monaco!
It doesn't bear well. My testing so far today has been very, very mixed. And I recall from career mode, actually, that it can be a little bit brutal on tyre temperatures.
Yes, this was my problem from my racing career, was after about 6 laps, my tyres were at about 110 degrees. And it had gone like to the point where there was no more red that could be shown, so you just slid around like a old man trapped in a body lotion fountain.
That is the most tortured metaphor I've ever heard. That was the best thing ever. This is phenomenal. Oh,
this is the level of shit that we're going for today.
Masterwork. Do you know, if someone doesn't put it on, I'm going to make sure that goes on the IMDb page. That's happening. That quote has to live in infamy. Oh, phenomenal. All right, already we're on to a good episode. This is going to be a good one. Shall we dive straight in and get the pain over and done with? It's like removing a Band-Aid.
Exactly.
Or a misplaced ketchup bottle. So, I have 2 setups, one with lower downforce, but although that makes me a little sprightlier, I'm actually going to go with the higher downforce setup.
Safer.
Yeah, because I just want to finish the race, and it's pretty clear that neither of us are going to get points, because we never do at Monaco. Nope. So my aim really is to actually qualify at the back. Just to avoid the inevitable T1 accident, and then just keep my head down and see if attrition lets me gain some places.
Yeah.
But it's good because... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I was actually contemplating for going for the harder sets of tyres, because then the tyre temperatures go up slightly slower, but actually it's so relative in terms of just how terrible this is going to be that it's not going to matter. Hi, John Nicholson, saying hi boys to us. Hopefully in the less people.
Good day, sir. I hope you're well. Oh God, it's wet.
Oh shit. Because we needed that.
Jesus.
Our race is dry.
Oh, well, you know, why not? Why the fuck not?
Right. The battle for the Stoffel Van Dorn position on the grid is on.
I'm glad you've dropped the Stoff bomb already because I did actually want to talk about him. He posted on his Instagram the other day that I'm here for my last day at the McLaren factory, and I saw the Twitterverse seems to have a big fondness for the waffle, and there was quite a lot of people commenting that they were sad seeing him go and everything. And then there was a quote from a guy who said, "We'll look back on this in a few years about how McLaren took an epic talent and discarded him after only 2 seasons." And I was thinking, oh my God, I would love to dissect that sentence and tell you everything that's wrong with it, but I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Were you woke? Were you awakened?
I was very woke on the Stoffel Van Dorn issue.
I know you're not his fan.
I refuse to be pressed by the Van Dorniarchy.
You're a Van Don't.
Yeah, I'm a Van Don't more than a Van Do. No, I have to say, like the whole thing with him, he just never impressed me in Formula One, and it's not that he's not a talent, because his junior Formula record was pretty solid.
Yep.
It's just at no point have I felt like, oh yeah, I'd love to see what he does next year. I mean, he's just not excited me in the way that Carlos Sainz did, or to be honest, even Daniel Kvyat excited me.
Yeah. In
his Toro Rosso years, his first stint with Toro Rosso, I mean,
yeah.
Far more than Van Dorn has at any point since he entered Formula One. It is slippery as balls.
This is horrific. What I will say though is, and we're seeing it also a bit from the Merrickson, who we are fans of the show, fans of the Merrickson here. Before it was trendy to be, now that everyone's going, oh, I'm so sad to see him go. After you've pissed on his grave for the last 4 years, don't social media mock us, people. We know where you're at. But more so, I think, with the waffle is since getting fired, suddenly putting in much better performances, as if the pressure is now off, and he's thought, well, fuck it, I might as well actually drive properly now, because Brazil, he was battling with Nando, who, to be fair, I can't. The problem with Nando is that I can't tell if he's still driving on full beans, and I hope that he is. But I would have no qualms for him not driving at full beans anymore, and then just going, oh yeah, waffle was good today. And he actually just turned up and was like, I've actually put Granny Alonso in the car and no one's figured it out yet.
To be honest, I think it's just Alonso's thinking, fuck it, what's the point?
Because they were having a good little battle in Brazil together, and when Van Dorn scored in Mexico, he was running last, I think, or last but one at one point, and actually had to overtake most of the cars on the track to get back up into 8th because he was on a slightly wonky strategy. But then I was like, wow, that was actually a really, really good drive from Stoffel. And then Brazil was the same. And then I thought, but you haven't scored in that McLaren before that since Azerbaijan. So I can't, it was a bit like everyone going, oh, give Jolyon Palmer a chance after a year and a half of absolute tiredness. And then he turns it up in the race that everyone crashed into each other in.
Yeah, and it's bizarre, isn't it, how that tends to happen? Because the same thing happened with the Merrickson, actually.
Yep.
He got his best qualifying and best race finish straight after it was announced he was fired. Yeah. But he has also got a full-time IndyCar seat, so, that's something.
Yeah, and I'm really pleased, actually, because Schmidt-Peterson Racing are actually quite a decent team. It's much more level playing field. I think his character and personality will go down really well over there, because they will think of him, and this is a bit of a left field comment, of Americans aren't the most open to diversity and normality, so they have to go back to other Swedes and Nordic people that they've had. So they'll just go, oh, it's a modern day Stefan Johansson, because he done IndyCar for years and years in the 90s. So I think he'll go down quite well and fill a gap in the market. Long may it continue.
I absolutely agree. It certainly won't do his career any harm, I don't think. I think it'll be very much a Max Chilton scenario.
Because he's not disgraced himself over there, has he?
No, he's done really well. And I kind of hope that the same thing happens with Van Dorn. Maybe not in IndyCar, but maybe in a pub car park donut
Christ.
contest.
Yeah. I tell you what's really, really interesting though, and I'd be very interested in your thoughts on it as I lose my front wing. Although to be fair, that was coming out of the tunnel and that had nothing to do with anything that I was actually supposed to be doing. Oh no, it's science. So, with Van Dorn and Ericsson leaving Formula One, Alonso going off to do other things, is the way how the reporters have all put it in as everyone's leaving F1 and going off to do other things, almost as if to prove their talent to come back to Formula One. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm thinking, but actually, if you go off to Formula E now that it's gone free to air on BBC and all of that kind of stuff, it makes me think, do you actually ever want to come back to Formula One? I know it's still considered the quote-unquote pinnacle of motorsport, but actually, would they want to if they end up doing like a Verne or so on and so forth and becoming such a main championship player in Formula E that's such a great thing, or an Alexander Rossi? Why would you come back to Formula One when you can win a championship elsewhere in something that's held aloft so well? So I see why they're saying it, but I kind of feel like it's almost...
No, I completely agree, and I would love to share my opinion with you on it, actually, because I'm a big Formula E fan, as you know.
Yes.
I think this season looks the most exciting yet, actually. I've seen some comparison videos, actually, that they put out between the Gen 1 and Gen 2 cars. And given that the formula isn't completely spec, you know, there is a constructors element to it.
Yeah.
The Gen 2 cars are impressively faster. They look really, really good. And I think the series is starting to attract some very interesting talent. It's going to have a bigger audience built in the UK simply because free to air on the BBC is going to take you places. Yep. It just is. It comes with a built-in audience.
Absolutely.
I'm starting to think that is actually the series to be in the next 10 years. Maybe today it's still in the ascendancy, but I think it does demonstrate that there are some problems in Formula One, and there is this tendency actually for drivers to maybe get dropped from Formula One to go somewhere else, and it always does seem to be with that kind of eventual hope of coming back. But then you look at some of the guys and they choose not to come back, and you already mentioned Verne, who for obvious reasons wasn't interested in going back to Toro Rosso, although I believe he was approached.
Yes.
Because you know, fuck you dropped me and I'm a world champion now.
Yeah, exactly. And then why would you come back for that and then be thrown the France tossed sandwich of shit for a midfield car?
Precisely. A car that very well may not be in the midfield next year because they've suspended. They've basically compromised this season with the aim of next season, but I'm not sure the work they're doing has been totally relevant.
No.
It's a hard sell. Wow,
You've done well.
I've gone quite a bit faster than I had hoped.
You've done very well.
Ridiculous.
What's also so Jeff said to me as I was just getting ready to come back out again, light rain in 5 minutes, so it could be that we all have to dive onto Inters right at the end of this session. Tactical staying out in words.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, like, I do kind of want to start at the back just to avoid all the drama, but maybe I can also cause a Ben train scenario to develop. I mean, I'm 2 seconds off pole. I don't know how the hell Kimi Räikkönen pulled that time out of his arse, but he did. Let's watch some people on track, and we'll maybe go out in a bit on Inters. Interestingly, tying into that, by the way. No! Already?
Yeah,
no!
That's fine. That is
what
fine.
Happened?
It was a lock of everything down into turn 1, and then I couldn't barrel it out down the thingy. Sandovo.
No.
Never mind.
No. All right,
do it now, and then I'm okay for the race.
I will try and keep the flag waving then. So, Well, actually, this gives us a chance to have some proper conversation, I suppose.
Yeah.
Did you see that Pascal Wehrlein is doing a Sauber?
No.
And he's skipping the start of the season again for his new team.
What? Why?
Don't know.
I don't like Januaries. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't get much detail on it. I didn't have time to read up on it. I just saw like a sideline kind of deal, like a little sidebar advert. The headline deal, he came up and just said Pascal Wehrlein to miss the start of the season. I thought, aye, is he now?
Part-time Pascal.
Yeah, but we should get onto the F1 very quickly. But I do want to say that I'm raring to go on the new Formula E season. I think the cars look fantastic. I think the grid is improving every year. My only lament this year is that Felix Rosenqvist has been inexplicably dropped.
Yeah, I don't understand that whatsoever. And I don't actually know where he's going to, or if anything at all.
Isn't he driving... Isn't he driving in America? I don't know if it's... He did a bit of NASCAR. I mean, he drives everything, that boy. I think he did a bit of NASCAR, but I saw him... I think he was behind the wheel of a Porsche.
Ah,
maybe he's doing GT or something.
Nice.
Tell you what, since we're not driving right now, I'll take a look. But I think, once Formula E moves away from just taking on F1 rejects, and it is starting to now, with people like Albon coming in, who it seems like the rumours of him going to Toro Rosso have now been quashed because he appeared on the official entry list for Formula E, which makes it sound like the young drivers at this year's Toro Rosso will be the increasingly elderly Brendan Hartley and Daniel Kvyat.
What a weird
It's just mad, isn't it?
Weird world.
Oh yeah, he's driving IndyCar this year for Chip Ganassi.
Oh, awesome!
So yeah, that's where he's gone.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so all right, he's still in top flight motorsport. That's the main thing, because I think that boy's a real talent. I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw his first race win as well in Formula E.
Oh yeah, it was at the airport.
The year before last at Berlin. Yeah, he won from Mahindra.
Superb.
Hey Beetlejuice, thanks for joining, mate. We've already had a retirement, and I am waiting for the weather to change before I go out again. No, Jeff, I'm not going out on full wets again. Anyway, since we've already touched on Toro Rosso, why don't we get into that Toro Rosso problem? So, Brendan Hartley hasn't exactly been confirmed, but it does seem the likely choice at this point, given that Alexander Albon has been officially confirmed on the Formula E entry list, which only came out this week. So that tells me no deal has been done, or that he couldn't get out of his Formula E contract even if he wanted to. I tell you what, though, it still bugs me. It still sticks in my craw that the lineup is potentially Kvyat and Hartley. And I've got a lot of love for Brendan Hartley, and I kind of felt that the problem is I don't think I'm as objective with Brendan Hartley as I am with other drivers. Because I so badly wanted him to do well, and I think I have to come to terms with the fact that his F1 career has been disappointing, and that he hasn't really done enough.
It's not been shoddy, it's just when he's had the chances to prove himself, they've generally all gone by the wayside, and it's not been helped by the fact that Gasly has usually either come up to match him by the end, or it's Gasly that's taken all of the big points and all the big hurrahs at the end. Bahrain, I think, was a huge drop, as was Hungary, as was Japan. Particularly Japan for me, because he'd done it all in qualifying and just needed to chill it in the race, and it had all gone horribly wrong. I was quite pleased at how ballsy he was getting in Brazil, and it did kind of lend itself to that whole argument of maybe he's not being treated fairly by the team because of how he Did you hear the team radio of it where he was like, "I'm right up his fucking ass"? I don't know what accent that was, but yeah.
No, actually, Beetlejuice is just saying he thinks he deserves another year, particularly because he's praised for his ability to develop the car, which, let's be honest, they do need. And also mentions that we make him sound like Palmer, and you're right, but he is starting to, at least he's, up until the last, 3 rounds or so, he had been slipping into the Palmer category for me with Van Dorn. It just felt like he was... His races were either anonymous completely, so I wasn't even aware where he was, or he crashed, or something happened, and I don't know. It's just hard to say. You're right, though. Next year there will be no clear favourite. I mean, neither of them are much loved.
I feel like they're just going to turn up and just every race is you have an engine penalty for sister team, and it's just because no one loves them. And then they don't have a garage; they just have a little caravan at the back. They have to bring their own packed lunch, and the catering woman will not serve them, no matter what they do. And yeah, they have to report afterwards, and then write lines of "I shall not drive any slower" at the end of each session until they're sorry.
It's talking of placeholders, Bottas. Yeah, we will get to him. Fear not.
Yes.
No, I mean, I just think for me, it would be a hard sell actually if I was underwriting the costs of Red Bull Racing and Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
I'd be looking at Toro Rosso at the moment with a bit of a squinty eye. They've certainly served the purpose in terms of preparing Honda to power Red Bull, and I do believe Honda have made some real progress on the engine. So I don't think it's going to be an embarrassing disaster. However, it's a lot of money to spend on a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
And given that really its purpose was always to feed drivers up to Red Bull, and this year, and arguably last year, the year before last year, it's been fielding drivers who have zero chance of being promoted. It just seems like a very expensive waste, almost.
It feels a bit weird for me because it's almost like it switched from driver development program to engine development program.
Yeah.
That's very confused. There was some weird behaviour going on in quali. So not only have you outdone Max Verstappen, who's out in Q1, lol, Marcus Ericsson was on a time that would have got him into Q2 and he pitted.
Beetlejuice says... missed a few comments here. Can't wait for Red Bull versus Ocon in the Mercedes. Me neither, and that's also something we're going to touch on. But it says Honda have done enough this year to make the McLaren to Renault move look very questionable, which is good because it means I feel vindicated about what I was saying all the last 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nobody would have thought that at the beginning of the season, except for your old pal Esteban, who called it.
Yes.
Even before this season started, I distinctly said, I bet what we'll see in pre-season testing is that the Honda is suddenly reliable and McLaren are the ones that goof up. I do have some very severe worries about McLaren. But yeah, I'm actually... While I don't think Red Bull will be challenging for the title with Max, which is what they've been saying, because I think Honda have made a great deal of progress, but I don't think it's that level.
No.
But I do see them as a force for the championship in the following years, perhaps, because it's so important to have a works partner behind you. And if Honda start getting better results, which they've already begun to do, then the board are going to be even happier to keep funding that program. I mean, they're committed for more years anyway already. You might actually start to see them delivering something that is, when paired with a competitive chassis, capable of of making Honda's return worthwhile.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you take over now while I try and not crash, since I am the only one of us still running.
Yes, good luck. Good luck. That was a good effort in Q1, by the way. Well done.
But I do want to ask you. Let's say that things don't go well with Gasly and Verstappen. Esteban, lol. Right. So maybe the team is it just doesn't work, or maybe Gasly doesn't deliver, or Max just hates him. Do you think maybe Kvyat was brought back for that scenario and not just as a seat filler? Because I'm going to qualify that statement now. It's just that it's not like there were no drivers they could have taken on. Right, and particularly once it was clear that Van Dorn was on his way out, which I would say was pretty clear from like the 4th round of this season.
Yep.
To go back to Kvyat seemed an odd choice, but he is familiar at least with the Red Bull way of doing things, which is he gets up, goes from his trailer to the pits, gets fired, drives a few laps, gets reinstated, gets promoted, gets demoted after lunch, gets promoted again. So at least he's familiar with the setup. But it does strike me that we've been saying, and I still in my heart believe it, that both he and Hartley are placeholders. But actually, I wonder if that is actually true with Kvyat, or whether this really is a chance for him.
I think that's an I'd never even had that cross my brain. I think Gasly and Verstappen will be much more punchy with each other than Ricciardo and Verstappen in terms of character. I don't know whether or not in terms of pace they'll quite be on the same page, at least initially anyway, for it to kind of maybe bubble over. So that would be quite interesting. I also think that no matter what happens, they will back Max. Sadly, even if Gasly is wiping the floor with Max, which if he has another shit start to the season like he did this year, I mean, yes, he has gone through and pretty much vindicated all of the problems and is now busy battling for battling for wins outside of third in the championship. But he would have had that third in the championship if he hadn't have chucked it in the fence 6 times in the first 6 races, kind of thing. So I think everyone going, oh wow, what an amazing recovery. Yes, but it also shows you the problems that he has before. And if he has that at the beginning of 2019 with a new front wing, and maybe that causes him a little bit of upset, Gasly may get the advantage if he's a bit more savvy and on it. And that could play into some real big problems, I think, for the team into battle. For Kvyat, I have to say, I just think he's their whipping boy. He's a known quantity. I think what it does is it immediately shows if Hartley's any good in a Formula 1 car. Because if Hartley is behind Kvyat, then Hartley goes out the door pretty much, I'd say, by like round 6 of a season for whoever else they want to put in next. And it's almost like Kvyat's the new Verne, because Verne they would never promote because he doesn't make business sense to promote for an energy drink company. But
no, he's too
stoic
French.
and angry. Yeah, too French. That's a good way of putting it. Stoic, angry, quiet, moody. Less those these days, probably because he's out of that kind of, hey, you've got to have, when everyone's like, hey everyone, you've got to have fun, office party. You just like fuck off and die.
Lost it. That was my best save to date.
I tell you what, if that par had Pampers on, it would have skidded up the sides.
I was 3/10 up as well, briefly, but that's gone.
Still 10th on the grid. Hamilton's not done a lap yet, though. Yeah, so for me, there's Kvyat is almost like the benchmark of if he, which was what Verne was going to be for Verstappen, and then that would have been for Kvyat going back, would have been against Hartley perhaps, if Hartley would have got the nod, Albon or a Van Dorn or a Matsushita or
Yeah, you just mentioned the thing. I mean, I'm surprised that a Japanese Honda driver, hasn't been mooted for Toro Rosso.
Well, so on Autosport, apparently Honda are looking at Jenson Button's teammate in the Japanese GT Formula, Naoki Yamamoto. They're saying we want to give him some FP1 sessions.
He drove a stellar race, actually, a few days ago. Really strong, and they became the champions, I believe.
Yes, they did. They did. I watched it on Jenson Button TV on YouTube. I can't believe how many now F1 drivers or ex-F1 drivers now suddenly think that they are a TV station and celebrity personality. But yeah, I found it really, really interesting that because obviously it's Button that will grab the headlines, but it's always two to make that championship work, so he could be a nice one to get in.
I was half a second up on myself and then fluffed it on the... It's actually really hard to drive the car in these conditions. This is an in-lap for me now, so I'm just going to be careful not to bin it. I'm going to put fresh tyres on and have another crack, but I'm also concerned that maybe it dries before.
Has Jeff has given you any insight of the golden variety?
He has said nothing. So I mean,
who else is there for a Honda driver to get in? I guess into that Toro Rosso seat. So you've got the Yamamoto guy for it, that's Button's teammate. I can think of a couple of other Honda drivers in Formula 2 and Formula 3, none of which are quite like there yet. Nairo Fukuzumi didn't do a very good F2 season after doing very well in GP3, which will now be called Formula 3 this year. And Nobuharu Matsushita has disappeared off the radar and gone and done something else after doing quite well in GP2, but only winning a couple of races and never really doing a championship challenge. Everyone else is kind of way down the ranks.
Because you've got to say they probably were hoping to have a Japanese driver when they came into Formula 1.
Oh yeah,
that was probably one of their marketing targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I actually think Kvyat has the glimmerings of a chance. I think it's incredibly unlikely, and I think it's Hartley that really has no hope. Even if he improves.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced he will actually get a second season. I am genuinely surprised that Van Dorn hasn't been picked up.
Well, I thought he might have been going off to Sauber, but obviously Sauber went for Giovinazzi instead for helping out, I'm assuming, with the Alfa Romeo deal to have an Italian in the car, and that kind of blocked that off. But yeah, I can't really think of anyone else that would naturally go to Toro Rosso.
I'll be honest though, I am kind of keen to see what happens with Giovinazzi. I am looking forward to seeing him. Everyone's in the garage.
Everyone is in the garage.
That's a sign. That tells me it's going to stop raining.
Yes. It's all gone a bit Q3, where there's always like a minute or so around here. Because normally I've only got one set of tyres left, and this is when I do my lap. Oh, someone's going out up the front. It's a Toro Rosso. They know. It's Gasly. Toro Lolo.
Right, can I just say... like, legitimately, I'm not actually a big fan of Gasly. There's something about him that I don't like. As a personality and as a driver, actually. I mean, he's had some good results, don't get me wrong. Like, he's clearly got talent, but...
Yeah.
I don't rank him as highly as Ocon, who suddenly has become a pariah and everyone thinks is... unforgivably shit. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, he messed up a bit, but I don't think that undoes everything he's ever done. Nope. He seemed to have gotten a free pass ever since Bahrain. A reasonable comment, but for me, Gasly just isn't in the same category as Sainz, as Verstappen, as Leclerc, and I don't know. There's something about him that I don't.
His highs and lows are, well, highs I guess is what we should be focusing on, are not as high as what I would expect to warrant to get straight to Red Bull.
Yeah.
No, maybe not necessarily in terms of position, because I can't remember what highest position Verstappen was before he got there. But you saw all of these flashes of overtaking brilliance and genuine speed and pace. For me, that Toro Rosso car worked a dream in Bahrain, and Gasly took advantage of it. But actually, Hartley was going just as fast. He just fucked it up with a front wing problem, which I guess is the difference between being able to handle it at the front and not in an F1 car. But I can't tell how much of the big results are down to Gasly rather than Toro Rosso having this weird 3% window where the car is magic, and the other 97% where it's the back end of Q2.
I'm going out on Inters again because I don't think it's going to dry up before the end of the session, is it?
Everyone else is on Inters.
Beetlejuice points out that he's had a relationship with Honda since being a junior, and he works well with the Japanese, which probably gives him some leeway at Red Bull, which is, very true. However, right, controversial opinion, we're going to backseat team manage here. Backseat Christian Horner.
This is what we do.
I would honestly say, and I don't know if he would go for it and if it even works, but what I would have done was, when I lost Ricciardo, I would have realised that Toro Rosso was never going to be an attractive option for Verne, who they did approach. And I would have given Verne, the newly crowned Formula E world champion, dibs on the Red Bull seat, and left Gasly for another season or two to mature.
Ooh, I like that idea. Because Verne was no faster or slower than Verstappen when they were teammates, particularly, were they? Admittedly, at the beginning,
and he matched Ricciardo pretty closely. I mean, it could have gone either way when Verne and Ricciardo were up against each other for that promotion.
Absolutely.
And it was just, this was back in the days where Red Bull still had young drivers to put into Toro Rosso, so it was the days where they'd put two drivers against each other, pick one and fire the other, which was, traditionally their method.
Yeah, or both.
I don't know if you would have taken it, Beetlejuice. That's a completely fair point. That's what I was saying. Because Formula E is a very exciting place to be right now, and he's a world champion, and he's with a strong outfit that has become a works team, having won as a customer. So you'd think they should only go from strength to strength. They've taken the works power unit deal that their closest championship rival had. So it's going to be a spicy season for Techeetah, I think. So I'm not sure if I was in Verne's shoes if I would have taken it, but I certainly would have tested the water if I was Christian. Because I think Max has really redeemed himself in the second half of this year, and I think he's started to really show that he's worthy of a lot of the plaudits he's received. But by the same token, I still don't consider him a team leader because he's just too volatile. He's too much like his dad, Something doesn't go his way and he gets out of the car and headbutts a woman, and it's not appropriate. And oh shit, that was a bad line.
That racing line was not appropriate. Yeah, I know what you mean, because I guess that we've not covered it, and we should do at some point. The incident in Brazil that lost him.
I was saving that one for the race, but yes, we should.
But that's a prime example of throwing a paddy. It's also, I think, the reason why Vettel has lost the championship this year. Throwing paddies constantly at all times, including destroying the weighbridge in quali at Brazil, which made me giggle. It's just, when you lead, you can't afford to be that prima donna. I don't think. I think it's what burnt too many bridges for Nigel Mansell, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you still improved?
I'm still out though, right?
No.
Oh no! I mean, do you think? God damn it!
What are you doing?
God damn it! I wanted to qualify at the back.
You're going to end up winning this thing. I tell you what, you've just... I done fuck all in that session, and I still got 500 XP. What?
I think you
Cheers,
get points
teammate.
for being a good sport and not quitting.
Ah.
God damn, where did that pace come from? I even
Well
fluffed,
done.
like, you saw my really bad line into the,
And you were proper slidey out of the last corner as well. I thought that was going to cause you probs.
It did. I lost time. I mean, God knows where I would have ended up had that not happened.
Nice.
Look at McLaren up there in 6th. Ridiculous. Oh well, it's all for nothing, because I'm going to have a massive accident into turn 1.
Maybe it was drying up.
He could have retaken him on the straight. Ocon would have been blue flagged for 2.5 laps. Yeah, we're definitely going to touch on this. I do want to talk about this thing. But coming back to the max thing that we're on at the moment, I want to put something to you, and maybe Beetlejuice, you want to weigh on this too, and anyone else listening in on Simon's stream or mine.
We've got a few.
In the 70s, 80s and 90s, and even some years of the 2000s, being sort of a quite volatile, emotional driver tended to give drivers an edge. I'm thinking here particularly Senna.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that, particularly since the hybrid era, that suddenly we've seen more volatile drivers actually being punished more often than succeeding?
Agree. And I think that's down to the fact that technology covers... how do I word this properly? I think the technological advances of Formula One now requires you to be there with robot precision, because technology operates at such a peak performance in such a tiny small window, whereas beforehand, where technology in Formula One was less prevalent and it was more about being the man-handling machine. Grab those bicycles, smash them around the face. What is it? Is it Donkey Puncher? I can't remember. Yeah. Don't, kids. So yeah, it's... I think because machines were... It was about being emotional enough to be able to manhandle something around and forcefully throw the car around a track, and basically bend it to your will. Now you're having to work in precision with the amount of technology, and we see it with tyres, we see it with brakes, we see it with ERS and so on and so forth. It all has to be in the right quote-unquote operating window. You can't just throw it around anymore. And that's, I think, why as soon as you start to let in that piece of emotion, you become out of that robotic mode where you are so in tune and zen-like to being in that 1% window where there is perfection achieved. Perhaps.
Beetlejuice correctly points out that car importance is greater than driver importance these days. I would say, though, because you're right, but I would say it's been that way, actually, in my opinion, for at least the entire time I've watched Formula One.
Yeah.
I mean, you do occasionally get guys like, particularly Alonso, I'm thinking of here, who can drag a performance out of a car that it wouldn't deliver in the hands of another driver. So the driver does still make a difference, but I still think, you know, the car is the key factor. Also, he mentions the social media stuff, and I agree. Like, it is a very corporate environment, and being volatile can damage your career. However, what I'm talking about here is specifically the driving, because I notice I think Vettel has been the most continual example in the latter half of the season, and the early part of the season it was Verstappen. That what previously would have been a passion and a hunger that may have delivered results in, say, the 80s or the 90s, today seems to result in costly mistakes.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And it does occur to me, like, what specifically about this formula is punishing drivers who can't sort of keep their head in the game. Because, I mean, I think Grosjean's another one who suffered in the hybrid era, because he got a handle really on the V8s, and then we changed, and since then he's been very up and down, and he's a particularly emotional driver as well. And also with Lewis, right?
Yep.
That he lost out, I would say, to Rosberg in part because of his emotions.
Absolutely. And I'd say that And when you hear about how Rosberg won that championship, it was basically be a fucking robot for the year and let nothing get take your concentration and emotions away. So no, I completely agree. I think what I was saying about technology versus emotion is a huge factor. I'd also say that because where technology also minimises the amount of gain you can get from an emotional performance as well, we only really get to see the huge losses, because if you go back to teammate battles, we go, oh my god, he was 3 temps off, as if that's a humongous travesty.
Yeah.
If you go back to the 90s, and you'd think of Michael Schumacher, Senna, Prost and their teammates, I was a big Gerhard Berger fan. He was barely within a second of Senna half the time in qualifying. But that didn't make him a crap driver. It's just that the levels were different then of what was acceptable to be behind someone and be a number 2. Fucking hell, 5th place.
Yeah, I know.
What are you on, bruv?
I don't know what's happening. I have no idea what's happening.
Hail the pinky. Hail the pinky.
And I'm half a second up already.
This is your Olivier Panis.
This is unsettling. Something went wrong there, though.
You'll be lapping me a couple of times at this rate.
I don't think I have this pace consistently. It's always been the case for me, actually, that I can find a little bit of pace in quali for Monaco, but my race pace is just shocking. Particularly because at the moment I'm on very light fuel loads as well, so the car's a little bit friendlier.
Yeah. Superb. I was watching the majesticness.
Purple Sector 2, this is concerning. What's everyone else doing?
Lewis has gone fastest by half a second, but I think you might do a bit better. Yeah, you got him by 3 temps.
What?
We are not worthy.
No.
Let's bookend these grids like motherfuckers.
This is ridiculous.
Well, you can't crash into turn 1 if you've got no one to crash into ahead of you.
I'm not going to hold on to it. Someone's going to beat me to it. I've already backed off now because I'm sweating. I've ruined it for myself.
No one else is out on track at the minute.
Yeah, someone else will take pole.
John Nicholson, good lap. You're getting approval from the chat.
Why, thank you. I've never done a lap that good around Monaco. Ever.
Well,
and this is the first qualifying session here I've ever done where I haven't taken off an end plate.
What?
My car is still intact, even after a full wet and an intermediate session, so nice.
Well done. Even the AI crowd are clapping. Oh, Paul.
Right, should we talk some F1 now? Now
Yes.
the tension is over.
Yes. Oh, can we talk? Just whilst we're beating around, I know we've jumped around various different topics, but can we talk very, very briefly about Sauber merging with Charouz and I can't remember it might be Charouz in Formula 3 as well, to create an official Sauber junior team.
Yes, we can, because we both love Sauber deeply, and this is fantastic news.
Yes.
Tell you what, that team has really impressed me this year, and I'd long had the opinion that if they just had a little bit more money coming in, that they could do a lot. They really could do a lot. And I saw that people from Force India and from Haas had said to the press, the development on that Sauber, and particularly in the second half of the season, has been astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
Both cars in Q3, right, in Brazil?
Yep. And Mexico.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see it. This is where Sauber belong.
Absolutely. I remember when they first came into F1 and they were doing that kind of stuff and they were battling for fourth in the Constructors. and then they were back in the early 2000s and then late 2000s. But you can see it's each time that they're battling in fourth in the constructors is when they've had a wave of investment money. So at the beginning it was from
Mercedes funded them coming in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then when Raikkonen came in, that was when Credit Suisse got to their peak with Petronas. Then when BMW took them over, they were busy battling with Kubica and Heidfeld for that then. The kind of anomaly was when Manisha somehow, well, I suppose if a stopped clock's got to be right twice a day, was 2012 when it all went well with the tyres. But back with funding again, and look where it's got them. So pleased.
But I think this is the first time I think the investment looks sustainable. Yes. Rather than like a peak.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to break. I'm just genuinely happy to see it, because I really worry about the future of that team, and I already had to suffer with Arrows going bust and Minardi being removed from the grid. I don't think I could handle my heart being broken for a third time.
Oh mate.
I tell you, like, I never in my wildest dreams thought that this season would have gone so well for them. I think the car looks fantastic. It's been growing on me ever since I first saw it, because at first I thought, oh, there's a bit too much white in that livery, and the car doesn't look amazingly designed. It looks like they were actually a little bit conservative, but it seems like they had a solid base, and they've just been able to learn about it and develop it. And the livery now is one of my favourites, actually, because I think it's sort of like quietly classy.
Yeah.
It's got a premium feel to it, you know, like it puts me in mind a little bit. You know, even though it's a totally different colour, I think the way it's kind of distinct but understated reminds me a little bit of the liveries Jaguar used to run.
That's
in their
what
corporate
came to
colours.
my mind. Yeah. I used to enjoy the Jaguar liveries because nothing else was like it. But
yeah. I thought that Jaguar actually had some of the best liveries during their stint in Formula One.
Yeah, definitely.
I just hope that this can continue next year, and I'm really not sure how it's going to go with Kimi. It's a great story to have him back in the team and everything, but I'm just not entirely sure that it's going to be right for them.
My worry for Kimi and Sauber is his genuine inability to go for the overtake, and you don't have too many of those when you're at the front of the field. But when you're battling in the midfield, he can't just go, well, I can't really overtake round this track because, it's quite difficult in Formula One, and so I
had a dog and it died.
Yeah, by my book, it's the only one. But the problem is that he can't sit and wait for a strategy to find his way out of it, because when he does, he'll re-emerge 18th, not 6th, and then have the pace to move it back up again. I think speed-wise, actually, I've been quietly impressed that he's still got it and is still bringing it to the party. You've done another one. 9?
I qualified 9th!
What? F1 2018, you're broke.
How does that even happen? How does that begin to happen?
And that's like by a couple of seconds as well. Oh, fuck off.
Oh, joyous.
This game.
So I went through the stress of trying to put in a pole lap to still qualify between the two horses and crash into turn 1.
You're literally the arsehole.
I am the arsehole between the two horse cheeks. God damn it, I actually feel a little bit robbed now. I feel like that should have officially been my second pole. But
I agree. That's ridiculous. It's a pole in our eyes.
See, it does bother me actually that the game simulates stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it was noticeable already here, and I'm not saying they wouldn't have done this lap time, because they went out after me and the track did seem to be improving, and like it makes all the difference around here. But particularly in like dry to wet sessions, right?
Yeah.
And you cross the line just as, people need intermediate tyres. And then it simulates the rest of the cars that are on track as if the track was dry.
Yeah.
And so suddenly you're like 3 seconds off the pace. Because
Yeah.
you were on dries on like a wet track, basically. And they were considered to be on a dry track on dries because they had dry tyres fitted for the simulation. So it really... Codemasters got too much credit for 2016. They've been lazy since. I kind of agree with you on that, actually.
Yeah.
Although I am enjoying the career mode in this version of the game. I think this is easily the best career mode.
Oh yeah, by far. But it's always interesting when the biggest update to your racing game simulation is everything that happens not on the track.
Yes.
Hey, and especially when that scary Emma lady still looks like she's going to stab you at every move. Although I'm glad they got rid of performance car guy with the weirdest hair model I have seen on a PS4 game. It's like someone decided to give him hair implants, but only thought that 10 would be enough. It was bizarre.
Yeah, no, I like the let's call it the cast of characters more in this version of the game.
Jeff has a face that still confuses me and disturbs me to the core.
And he doesn't look like Jeff should.
No, he doesn't at all.
He doesn't look very Jeff-like. Right then, me old cocker. What you doing on your stratagems? Because you can take any tyre you want. A nice boy like you can have any tyre he wants.
Well, so it wants me to do ultra soft then super soft.
It's doing the same for me.
Ignore the hyper, but it's only 5 seconds between a two-stopper. I kind of feel like I'll lose a wing somewhere, so maybe I should start.
Actually, do you know what? You're completely and utterly right. I'm gonna two-stop as well because I've actually been driving quite cleanly in qualifying and I haven't taken anything off yet. But turn one. I'm in the middle of the pack. I'm in the complete middle of the pack. Something is going to happen.
Maybe go with ultras, and then that lets you do ultra hyper, or ultra hyper.
Oh, you sound like a Japanese advertisement, but you're right.
Hyper plus. Ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, 4th of December, the most amazing game ever. Apart from this, comes out on PlayStation 4. It's called Nippon Marathon. P-Cube were very kind enough to try and send me a PC version of the game, but I'd already bought it. And it's
of course you had.
Do you remember the game show Takeshi's Castle?
Yeah.
It's like that, but a 4-player racing game. But it's like doges come out and they're just like, the guy goes, dodge the doge, like proper racist, like, and you've got to try and like dodge it round, and it's like, haha, you die in rice bowl. Yeah, I was well amused. 4th of December, everyone, go by. I will be live streaming.
Plug.
Yes.
Right then, have you picked your strategy? Shall we begin the pain?
Yeah, go on. I'm going ultras then supers because I'm gonna aim for a one-stop, knowing full well it'll be 2 or more.
I'm still two-stopping. Everyone who's watching right now, please bear in mind this could be a short episode today.
Yes. In which case we'll just
may both
chat
crash
after.
out immediately.
I've been playing too much All-Star Fruit Racing.
I keep telling you about All-Star Fruit Racing.
I know.
I don't approve.
I know. But yeah.
Right, all I want for Christmas is my 2 front wing end plates and to not have a big accident into turn 1. I'm wondering actually if it's worth me just taking a time penalty by blatantly cutting T1. Because the AI are fucking useless.
That might kind of. Are you going to be on the inside for Sandovo?
Yeah.
Ah, good man. That might actually be half the challenge done because you'll be able to kind of cut it a little bit. But if you don't accelerate as you do the cut, quite often it doesn't give you the time penalty.
Nice job, Codemasters.
Ericsson and Verstappen have hit each other.
Uh,
Well,
I'm kind of thinking, because the problem is I always bog down off the line as well, and I'm carrying a little bit of extra fuel. So I might just get monstered by the cars behind whatever I do.
Uh-huh.
And this is for me, this is the worst game in the series in terms of me dealing with traffic, whether it's quality traffic or race traffic. Thank you for your good luck wishes. I will try not to do a Verstappen or a Grosjean or heaven forbid a UGE day.
Ah, well done on the UGE Day plug. That is at least one shot for us after the episode.
I try and get him in. I try to reference him at least 4 times a season, just so no one ever forgets.
I wonder what he's up to these days. Probably ice cream vanning somewhere.
Taki Inui beats them all, according to Beetlejuice. We've got a lot of love for Taki Inui.
We do. His Twitter is hilarious.
That's right, he got hit by the medical car, didn't he? He got run over by the medical car.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, thank you.
And overturned.
Thank you for reminding me.
And overturned here at Monaco when the safety car tried to drag his car back and it dropped off the side and rolled over, if you remember.
That was a long red light.
That was.
Yeah, I'm getting monstered.
We've overtaken just one person and it's Max Verstappen.
Well, if you're going to overtake anyone, that's the one.
Let's see how long I can hold him up for.
That's half the joy of driving this track, I think. Just seeing whose race you can ruin, because you're not going to have a good one yourself.
Exactly.
It's very, very slow around here, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know, in qualifying, I was very worried that I was spending too long completely off the power, but actually I see other cars are doing basically the same thing, although I did lose a lot of time there to the car in front.
I find it...
Now begins the tyre temperature monitoring.
I give mine about 6 laps tops. I just can't do it on this circuit.
The car feels really fat.
As in hippie?
No, well, yeah, but also as in just
like,
heavy.
Yeah,
like it's just not. It's not as sweet as it was.
It's
which makes sense.
Rolling. Yeah. Ooh, Van Dorn pits.
I suppose I better do some ERS management when I get a minute. That's the other thing. Like, it's like 75% of the chance I have an accident comes from me dicking around with the ERS system. Because it's draining like a motherfucker.
Well, the sirens are ready and waiting for you, should it take place.
See, I always think I can change it in the tunnel, but I forget the tunnel isn't completely straight.
No, it is gender fluid. I had noticed actually in our championship that Max Verstappen is only 12th in it.
Good. But isn't that because you and I keep taking him out?
Not on purpose though, may we add. It just happens that way.
Oh no. I'm gonna have K-Mags behind me with the Durs. I think I accidentally changed my front brake bias as well while I was panicking on the ERS.
Oh god.
So I'm getting my eye in now. I've calmed down a little bit now. I'm not stuck to Raikkonen's gearbox. I don't mind having cars behind me so much here. It's cars in front that are the problem because they tend to brake before me. And also I always forget that when you're in the draft of another car, your brakes do not work very well.
No.
Right, I suppose we should get back onto some Formula 1 news. I want to talk about the Williams situation because it was officially confirmed after our episode 2 weeks ago that they've extended an offer to Robert Kubica for the race seat.
Yes.
However, since then, I have not heard anything about him accepting it. And I want to propose something to you, because he has also been offered Ferrari Development Drive.
Yes.
Do you think there's any chance at all that he never really thought he'd get this opportunity, and now it's come along, he's thinking, oh, shit, now I have to put my money where my mouth is?
Agree. Absolutely agree. Which I know doesn't make for great debate, so we might have to play devil's advocate. But
no, we've got to stop agreeing with each other, man. Can't you just have, just once, a spuriously indefensible position?
Not if that means I have to side with most of Poland's Twitter accounts. No, so it was funny because this exact thing came to me when I heard it afterwards, and I thought, well, why hasn't he accepted then? And I thought, right, there's a couple of reasons why I could think that he could possibly say no. One is he was quite demonstrous about the Williams car and saying that it was an embarrassment to drive, blah, 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 blah. And then do you want to basically say, look what I can do? Like, Alex Zanardi was an amazing success because he came with success when he returned back to racing. If Kubica comes back to full open-wheeled racing and does what he does, but qualifies 19th, finishes 18th, does that qualify as a success in people's eyes outside of, like, the knowing of the achievement, if that makes sense? Oh, fuck!
Oh, Simon. No.
Never mind.
What did you do? Did we restart?
No, it was my twattiness. I binned it coming out of the chicane, but I'd already looking ahead to the next corner. I thought I'd cleared the corner.
Nah.
My own
Are you
fault.
sure? We can restart if you want.
That sounds like you're wanting to restart, but you're sixth.
No, I'm good. I'm sixth, and I've not lost my wing yet. I've got Magnussen up my chuff, but
I don't want to tempt fate because yours is going really well.
all right. Well, then you may have to do the bulk of the heavy lifting here then, if I have to extend the episode out to its full length.
Yeah. So for me, there is the I've got to put my money where my mouth is. What then constitutes an actual success? If he does take that car and it is at the back of the grid again. Also, then I still question. All of these teams have gone, yeah, okay, he's got like 1 lap pace and isn't too bad, but his overall pace, he's always been outclassed by people who are younger and quote unquote physically fitter. So that always makes it an issue. And then the last thing for me, and it was a weird thing for him to say, I think, was in his Beyond the Grid episode, which he done on the F1 podcast on the F1 channel on YouTube. He was talking about how he actually has zero advantage over everyone due to his previous F1 experience because the cars are so different now. He's like a rookie coming back in and would need that time to adjust. So then you think, okay, now...
So why are you here?
Yeah, exactly. So it really confused me, the entire kind of why he came out and said that, because it made no sense to me whatsoever.
I'm glad we're on the same page on this, actually, even though you're right, it does kind of stifle the debate a little bit, because I want you to prepare to clutch your pearls here and be shocked. You do brace yourself, but there are some people in Poland who think I'm an arsehole. And
another country ticked off the list.
Already last season, I was getting a lot of shit on my like streaming Twitter account for not being a Kubica lover, even though I am. It's just the guy we have today is not the Kubica of the past.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stayed off commenting on it too much since the offer came in, but it does seem to be on, hinging on him bringing in quite a bit of money now. He seems to have expanded his sponsorship backing, but still the whole thing feels very much like he's actually realizing now that, oh shit, I may actually get what I ostensibly wanted. And this could all go horribly wrong. And I think he's maybe starting to become aware of his legacy. Because the thing is, if he comes back and he isn't the Kubica of the past, which I don't think he is, does that tarnish our memory of him? And I think maybe a bit is the answer.
Yeah. No, agree, because there's it's the Schumacher
Well, it's a fickle
problem.
sport as well.
Yeah, like
You know,
Schumacher
because-
didn't disgrace himself, but everyone's like, yeah, those last 3 years, don't talk about those. Even though he was potentially in 2012 actually in for a run of the championship. Ricardo's in the pits, by the way, from second. So yeah, it's for me. I think it would do
Magnussen's in
damage.
2, that's good. That gives me some breathing room. I think he's faster than me though, so he's going to undercut me, but...
It's okay. Go the long game.
Sorry, you were saying?
No, I think I got to the end of it. Ricardo's out in traffic. Oh, I'm race engineering. Love this. And Magnussen's out behind Carlos Sainz, who pitted at the end of lap 1, so he won't get that much further up the field.
That makes me worry though, because I'm stopping twice and he's only stopping once, to my knowledge.
What tyre is he on? Oh no, he's gone ultras, so he might only.
Oh, so he's stopping twice too. Well, that's good to know.
Everyone came back out on ultras. They might be able to do the distance, but it seems quite early.
Don't get down the inside of me, Alonso, because you will knock me into the barrier.
Don't do it. Yeah, I just I worry. The more we play around with this, and the more he plays around with it in a back of the grid car, the more the legacy of Kubica, and there's a sort of romanticism of what might have been with him.
Yeah.
And if he comes back, I know that it sounds really weird to kind of put it in that context, but it just feels like it's. I'd rather not know than have the worry of seeing him come back as a shadow of his former self, quote unquote. Even if he's okay, he's not going to be blinding.
Well, I mean, the thing is he okay with coming back and spending a full season tottering around in 18th, 19th, and maybe being upstaged completely by George Russell, which is what I would expect to happen, actually.
Yeah.
What's going on with my tyre temperatures? Because the car feels awful. Yeah, my front left is 109 degrees.
Wow.
That's where all my pace is going.
I was already at 106 or 107 degrees when I crashed out on that 5. See if you can do. Mind you, this is my problem with Monaco. I can't go slow enough to get the tyre temperatures back down.
No, me neither. It's just thing is, like, the Codemasters forums and the Steam forums say it is a controller bug. Like, console gamers and people who play on the controller, just it's not adjusted for them, and you can't have the fine control input that you can have with a wheel that would help you manage the tyres. So it's Spain, Monaco, and one of the later circuits, I forget which, that your tyres will overheat inevitably. So I'm trying not to be too hard on myself about it.
Cool.
And it's not like I'm a million miles off Raikkonen.
No, not at all. And what's interesting is that the Sainz Magnussen lot that have pitted are just catching now onto the back of the Nico Hulkenberg trained for 10th, which goes all the way back to Magnussen in 17th, and they aren't running nearly as fast as you.
Well, that is pleasing to me.
So you may end up you might still end up kind of behind them, but whatever advantage they've pulled out, they're now losing because they're now stuck behind Max Verstappen.
I thought I should have stopped by now, but apparently not. Oh, because I put the ultras on, didn't I?
Yep.
So actually my next stint is on the hypers, so if I can maximise that would be some sexual healing.
Sexual healing! Next topic I'd like to chat about, very, very briefly.
Please.
We're off to Vietnam!
Yeah, for God only knows what reason.
Apparently, as Ted continually kept saying throughout the Brazilian Grand Prix, as if it was such a hilarious fact, is that there is a Vietnamese car that they want to promote, as well as travel and tourism, and but they've imaginally called it like the Viet car or something like that. It's really bad. It's like Vietnam and car combined, and so this circuit looks really bizarre to me, first off, but I just don't see how that is sustainable in such a growing / awkward economy. I suppose we could say the same for Brazil and places like that as well, maybe, but it just seems like an odd choice.
It's got it's all state backed though, isn't it? I mean, it's still a communist country, really. And it's very heavily state subsidised. And I did see Chase Carey saying like they're going to start dropping races where the deal is unattractive for them, which means he's going back in the direction Bernie was going in, which was, I don't care if the fans like a race or if it's of historic value, if I'm not making money off it. And that's going to encourage more and more of these ill-conceived state subsidised ventures into racing, where you turn up in a place, you build a brand new circuit at great cost, and then the whole thing collapses 2-3 seasons later because no one's watching or going.
Korea.
I also want to say that I'm disappointed with the name Viet Car. I would have gone with forgotten how to speak. Vietnammobile.
Ah, like that. I'd have gone for a Vietnam.
I'm losing a lot of time now to Raikkonen and the others because of my tyre overheating problem.
You are, but you're keeping Hulkenberg's pace.
I'm trying to anyway.
10.
If I'm going to have an accident, it will be around now because the car just isn't turning in very well at all. What temperature am I on? Back to 109. I got it down to 108, and it actually did help a little bit. But I could turn my fuel up, but I think that's kind of closing the stable door after the whole horse has bolted a little bit.
The Hulk's taken a couple of seconds as well.
So the thing is, like, if Kubica doesn't take the drive, going just backpedaling a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
They've already signed Russell, which I'm really happy about, and it was stated that they wanted Ocon, but they weren't sure they could afford him. Who is going to take the seat? Because they clearly need someone with a lot of backing. And I pondered on this a little bit, and then I thought, Rio Haryanto. I haven't thought about you in a long time, Rio, But joking aside, like I'm trying to think who is on the sidelines that has a lot of money, and it did make me temporarily think. Yeah, it did make me temporarily think about Merrickson, but then he's going to IndyCar, which is the better move.
Yes.
Actually, Pastor's backing is all done with now. The Venezuelan state oil company that backed him got into some serious legal trouble internationally, and the economy's knackered, and so thank God he's out of the picture. But there aren't many sort of high profile pay drivers that are sort of stood on the doorstep dinging the bell, are there?
Not at all. Everyone in front of you is on the super softs, the slowest tyre of the three. For me, it's super intriguing because there isn't a standout. I would, if it's not going to be Ocon, which it was led us up to believe that it was almost going to be, because they're still working with him. I still don't think Sorokin has done a terrible job at all. I think he's done a very respectable job. Nice guy. So long as he's got the money to keep going for another year or so, that'd be great. I wouldn't be unhappy to see him in the car again, and I think actually that would test him out a bit more.
No, me neither, but it seems like they've already decided it won't be him somehow.
Yeah, and I don't really get why.
No, I don't get why either.
Good shout. He was losing buckets.
Yeah. I'm going to come out behind this train, so I already left it too long, I think.
No, no, no. Okay, so the train will all go through. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But you will catch them very quickly. Ricardo's finally got past Hulkenberg, so basically, 10th to you are all just ahead.
Indeed, but I can't really overtake here. And I'm worried that I'm going to use my... Oh, shit. I'm worried I'm going to use my fastest tyre. Up. Stuck in traffic, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're right, I mean, I have caught them basically instantly, but... I'm going to say it now, I don't like the Hypersoft.
Ooh.
I was much more comfortable on the Ultrasoft, and I've adjusted to the tyres being overheated, and now this car feels too pointy.
Nimble.
And I think it's going to put me into a barrier. I've never had that complaint before, the car handles too well, but it does.
I think you might have to do a bit of overtaking if you want them points. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't banking on any points, so any I get are a bonus, but you may be right.
Yeah, so as you are coming up to Sergey, I personally, I'd like to see him back for another year alongside Russell. I think that would be a good benchmark for him. I don't know necessarily of his... he was tutored as being a guy that could help give great feedback in the car, but if he's done that all year and they've not... Because apparently they've not actually done anything to the car since Melbourne. If that's the case, then everything that he has done is going towards 2019, and then he's not there to actually reap a reward. Oh, I'd have been cheeky.
I did consider it, but I've had too much experience with the AI in this game, and they would just ram me.
This is why you're in the race and I'm not.
Well, actually, I think the reason I'm in the race and you're not is All-Star Fruit Racing.
Yes.
Which is not an FIA-sanctioned series.
Dang it.
Yet.
Of which Gran Turismo is currently going live with the FIA finals right now, so don't switch over, folk. But
oh, so I was going to say, if you want to watch people who can actually drive, that's the place to go.
But if you want proper opinions and good predictions that seem to come true way more often than they should do...
I knew that was going to happen.
It's okay.
I know I've taken damage, Jeff. Shut up. Yeah, I'm just going to be last, I think. You can't... I just can't overtake here.
Yeah, everyone 14th upwards, apart from Ricardo, have yet to pit.
So frustrating to be so close to Sorokin, but he's got that Mercedes power as well. I mean, I know I've got it, but it seems to do more for him than it does for me.
Dull. Who else would... anyone else you'd like to see in that Williams seat? Apart from you, obviously, when you overtake him?
Well, I mean, I'd consider it, but I do think that the driver's beneath me at this point in my career. I really don't know. Ideally, it would have been Ocon, but I know that that is not a realistic prospect at this point.
Oh, lots of people pitting.
I'll take it. No, Stroll.
Good move.
The problem is, like, even if I get past Sorokin, I'm not sure I'd be carrying too much speed through and end up going into the back of Van Dorn. Because they're all following each other nose to gearbox. So I feel like I just have to sit here now and...
Oh, yellow flag. Who's in trouble? Nice.
Yeah,
Well
eat
done.
it, Sorokin.
Well done. Top move. There's a yellow flag that's gone on somewhere as well, and I can't work out because no one else is out.
Someone left some debris on the track or something.
Yeah, I think so.
I can see where you crashed because there's a bit of your car that hasn't despawned sticking out of it.
Oh, okay. It's not usually where I'd crash, I must say. I was a bit pissed off. I'd already looked beyond the corner, my own car. Yeah, I'm not really sure who else I'd want in that car, especially because Lando Norris is now in that McLaren, who would be the other kind of person. The last person who I'd quite like, but they've already now signed up for Haas, is Sergio Sette Camara. I think he's done a really good job in Formula 2. Oh, it was Lewis Hamilton's crashed out.
Oh, sweet.
Or retired. That was the problem. I was looking...
he's kind of the inevitable Hulk of this episode, isn't he? Because we have to talk about him at some point, and we've got 20 laps to cover him and the Ocon Verstappen drama.
Ooh. Should we move on?
We should probably crack on, I guess. But allow you to pick a topic from the bag.
Sure. Let's go for Hamilton, because then we can end out with a big bang on our on our angry attack, so that I can keep you chilled. Mr. Hamilton, now driver world champion and constructors world champion, seemed a little bit more happier in Brazil, then got quoted on saying that India was poor, and everyone raged on Twitter about it. Can't quite see why they would be raging over truth, but there we go. It's also now saying that the momentum for this year means that they're going to be buzzing for 2019. And he's feeling more #blessed than ever.
Of course he is. Of course he is. I wonder what possible ridiculous affectation he's going to turn up in the paddock with in Melbourne next year. He's already done like the diamond stud earring and the dreadlocks and the cornrows and the John Lennon glasses. I'm wondering what possible level of wankitude he can wheel out next year.
Wankitude. I have literally no idea. He's so frustrating because yes, he is an amazing driver. And I know we talked about this in the last episode, where the British press have basically started to change their tune of he's amazing, realising that actually he's heavily divisive, and have now gone down the tact of why aren't you liking him? And why isn't he liked as much as what he is? And I think it's because I know we bitch about people like not being able to have a character and play up to that character and be that person, but when you're that, sometimes I wish he would be.
Well, see, this is the problem though, isn't it? Because Formula 1 characters tend to be quite corporately packaged these days, and the only time they have a character, it's like the default setting is bell end, and I just don't know why you can't have someone who isn't a wanker.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue probably Daniel Ricciardo is the only exception we have on the grid at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Brendan Hartley has a bit of personality as well, but he's just not really allowed to show it.
No,
because no one interviews him because quite often people forget he's a racing driver.
Yeah, there's that, and I also get his personality. I feel like is I'm on constant simmer because I'm about to go and punch someone in the mouth if someone else tells me about how terrible my afternoon has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting sloppy. These tyres are overheating again.
Yeah. The Hasses are pulling
I'm having to lift off in the corners so I don't run into the barrier.
Yeah, so... I just wish there was a decent... personality people. I think Hulkenberg also is quite cheeky, but corporate as well, and comes across quite well. And Perez, I think, doesn't do too badly. But again, it's wrapped up in corporateness. But Perez has that hint of, I've already told teacher. That kind of makes me go, don't trust everything you say, Sergio, as much as I love you. The problem... Well, not a problem. I don't mean it to be a problem. What was I going to say? I've completely blanked. My brain.
There's no excuse for you. You're not even driving. Come on.
No, I'm too busy watching Stroll, thinking, "Don't you dare." For me, and I think it must go to Mercedes as a whole, is that Mercedes have almost become like this team miserable, because they win the constructors, but they're like, yeah, it wasn't a 1-2. Bottas has crashed out now as well, or retired, so that's another one.
Yay! I was going to say, we promised to talk about Bottas as well, so it's probably good that you just mentioned that they're complaining it wasn't a 1-2.
Yeah, and for me, like a team, when they're like, they win the Drivers' Championship, but they're bitching about the tyre wear on that team. They're moaning about the Constructors' Championship, but they have the worst number 2 going out there at the minute. And I just kind of think that team feels like it's got so used to success that it's getting like pedantic over not enjoying stuff. I remember in Sebastian Vettel in 2013 was like, remember, these days they're not going to last forever. When are they going to have that? Or are they so damn confident that it's going to be good again next year that they're okay? But I do kind of think that they need to have that, because next year, if you look at Vettel and Leclerc versus I was going to say Alonso and Verstappen. That's not what I meant. Hamilton
would be a good lineup, though.
That would be an amazing lineup. Versus Hamilton and Bottas, I know which driver duo I would put as the best duo.
No.
For a constructors win.
Hold on.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Because for me, Bottas is the
change. No.
No, come in. It was going so well.
Yeah, I don't think I lost too much time. It's because I was trying to use the fucking MFD again to tell them to put super softs on, but I was too slow, so I'm just gonna take the ultras.
Don't worry. Yeah, because for me, Mercedes next year are not going to be my odds-on favourite for the constructors, even if I place Hamilton down as the drivers' championship. And it's because Bottas is such the weak link that Leclerc and Vettel will outdo them in the constructors combined.
Do you know, I was going to say the exact same thing.
Damn it!
No, really. I mean, to be honest, I felt the same way coming into this year anyway. I didn't think Vettel would go off the way that he did, and I actually thought it would be a Ferrari constructors, because I still think for my money they've got the best car. And they really should have taken the constructors this year. That said, I do think every drivers' championship between now and the formula change is going to Lewis. I think he's going to equal Schumacher's record. I know that because the thought of his smug grin when he does is imprinted into my mind, and I know that it's unavoidable. Oh, shit.
I was momentarily off you then. Was it a tobacco problem?
It's because I wasn't used to fresh tyres again. So the car's a bit too responsive, and I turned, and it actually turned, and so it dragged me into the barrier, and I ping-ponged across to the opposite one. But actually the car's handling okay with the damage, so cool. I can live with it. I think I'm going to finish last anyway. I think my two-stop strategy has diddled me a little bit, and really I should have run the super softs at some point. I learned that as well in career mode, where Beetlejuice was race engineering me, actually. Keep current. You see how slow I was there trying to press the fucking button to answer Jeff?
Yeah.
They need a better system. Like, when he asks you that, the microphone should activate automatically.
Yes. It is too clunky. It was going so well for the first 24 laps, though.
I am by no means upset. I'm actually quite proud of this drive. I think it's gone quite well.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I may not finish last in the end. It depends if other people stop. I lost quite a bit of time because they had to change my nose cone, but I don't think it's insurmountable. And it just depends what the cars in front do now. I think points are unlikely, but then again, I thought it would be unlikely I'd get into the top 10 again on my second stint, and I did, so...
Well, almost everyone is on super softs. There's a couple on ultras. I don't think anyone's on hyper. But yeah.
Those on ultras probably have to stop again, I think.
Okay. So
yeah, sorry, go on.
As I say, so Verstappen and Ocon. Should we dive into that one?
Yes, we should.
Whilst one forcing injury is in the wall and the other one's shunting around.
The other one's kissing the wall occasionally.
Yeah. What's your golden take on it?
It's a tough one because Ocon. Oh shit! Now I need to switch into a lower fuel mode. Ocon, for my money, did look to have the pace to a level that Verstappen, being in front of him, had compromised his race, or would compromise his race if he was allowed to continue running like that. So giving him the order to unlap himself, I don't think was unreasonable, but I think the way he attempted to do it was optimistic, given particularly Verstappen's reputation, but also it just seemed like a bad place to do it generally to any driver.
Down the outside.
Yeah. So I think it was a stupid move and he'll learn from it. I don't believe it warrants his quite epic fall from grace, where he's gone from being the darling of the internet commentariat to being the worst driver who's ever lived. Off a single move. I think that's a very reactionary take. That said, I would definitely also argue that Verstappen's response was beyond ridiculous. And I think punishing him for it was absolutely the right thing to do. Although I did notice a lot of F1 news outlets putting out articles entitled things such as F1 shouldn't clip Verstappen's wings. And I was thinking, I'm sorry, but when he starts going in and physically manhandling another driver, that's exactly when they should be clipping his wings.
Agreed.
And he does have a temper problem, and I think it's a problem that's only going to get worse in his career. And even though in the races this year where he's been able to control his temper and his emotions, he's delivered amazing drives that mark him as the talent of a generation, possibly. I don't think he learns that lesson. And it's not like he's a teenager anymore, and he still seemingly hasn't learned that lesson.
No, I'd have thought he'd have wanked it out of him by now, but clearly not. I'll go reverse first on the Verstappen stuff. Is that for me, F1 was absolutely right to clip his wings. I think it was wrong that there were quite a lot of F1 pundits who were like, but this is the emotion that we wanted. And no, that's not the emotion that we wanted. I think times have changed.
Well, that's because their job is based on their ability to write a headline that grabs people's attention, right? So a driver walking up to someone else in the garage is something that gets people to read their articles. It doesn't mean it's good for the sport. Sorry, carry on.
No, completely agree. And I think it was Chimpy Callum who pointed out, I love how quickly, within like about an hour or so, was top 5 times drivers have hit each other in Formula One. I was like, okay, this is the level of social media-ness that we're going to. It's the kind of amateur hour that I'd expect on what the F1 and the meme-based culture that increasingly things are pandering to, and therefore you're expecting to have that kind of rise and drama out of something. And it's systematic of pandering already for a team that panders to Verstappen, a media that is desperate for him to become some kind of saviour for Formula One, because Hamilton is not selling it for them, and Verstappen is, so therefore they will push him to be like a bit like how Hamilton was, Schumacher was, Senna was, Prost to an extent, I guess, as well. Bigger than the sport, and where else can they shove Verstappen in?
Yeah.
I found it really interesting that they gave him community service. I don't know what that entails. I'd love to be a fly on the wall to see exactly what that was all about. And my first thought when I saw it was, well, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree.
No, actually, there was like a Yoss versus Max checklist, and it was like, failed to win the Brazilian Grand Prix, tick. The similarities were quite stark.
That's the last time someone got taken out by a back marker, was, for people that didn't know, Jos Verstappen taking out Juan Pablo Montoya. In Brazil.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Okay, I'm coming in again.
That's okay.
I lost my wing there because I'd already lost the other half somewhere else.
Yeah. You'd lost it for quite a few laps as well. I was surprised that you was doing so well. Because you were still closing.
Never mind. I'm still actually remarkably happy with the drive. I'm trying to let you through. Why don't you go through? You motherfucker.
Moose. On the actual move though itself, what I'm desperate to see, and I've not been able to do so yet, is the extended video that they've put out on the F1 app, which I don't have, which shows essentially Ocon and Verstappen were having a go at each other for a good lap or so before that happened, and Verstappen was closing the door and not letting Ocon through, and being quite aggressive, and it kind of painted it slightly in a more light of it being more of a bubble over of frustration on both sides. Verstappen, had he keep his emotions in check, should have let Ocon go and realised there's a bigger picture at stake, and that not every position has to be fought, especially when it's with a lapped car. And Ocon should learn that you pick your opportunities based on who you're racing with, and just like you don't race with your teammate Sergio anymore, you should probably not try and unlap someone like Verstappen round the outside after being cut off for a lap.
I'm going to take a small amount of issue with that last part because, as I said during my opinion on this, Verstappen was damaging his race.
Mm-hmm.
And you still have to drive the best race you can, and if unlapping yourself makes sense, then you should definitely be attempting to do it. It's just he did it in a really stupid way.
Oh, yeah.
Something else I want to add actually is that what I found very telling on Verstappen's side is he hasn't apologised to my knowledge.
Right.
His team haven't commented on it that I saw. Maybe they did in the days after, but I was checking Twitter and Facebook all the days after and didn't see anything. But also that after this happened, any other driver would probably have calmed down and said, okay, I realise that was inappropriate. Mm-hmm. What Verstappen did was talk to the press and call Ocon a pussy. Which, I can find a certain amount of respect for, but at the same time, it tells me, like, he hasn't learned a damn thing.
Mm. Because that goes back to when it was all going wrong at the beginning of this year, and he's going, I don't need to change my approach, and then he'll say later on that when actually things have gone well, he's like, well, I may have learnt to drive slower, which means that I stay on the road more. Backhanded compliment. But then you kind of think, well, no, actually the arrogance, which I guess you have to an extent to do as his AI just clips the wall at the chicane. I guess you have to have that arrogance there to an extent, but it's I don't know, maybe it just needs to be a bit more tempered. But fans seem to be lapping it up, and maybe we're just old fuddy-duddies. I don't know.
Quite possibly. I do kind of
army.
wonder if actually, as I've matured, I want different things from the sport. Maybe. I've just realised that you can use the full watching the race mode, can't you? Could you grab some screenshots while we're talking at some point?
Oh yeah.
Because I can use them for promotional materials. It's a shame you've missed the big crashes, though. No, I mean, it does occur to
Oh.
and it is that people do want to see drivers punching each other, and they do want sprint races, and maybe I'm in the minority. I'm just not. I'm very grateful for what the sport has done right down the decades, and I'm very slow at things that put that at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, I was pleased with the start of Liberty's tenure, but this talk now of dropping races that don't give them enough money is worrying me.
Ah, for goodness sake.
Verstappen's penalty for punching Ocon was, well, nearly punching Ocon, was a little bit lightweight.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, what on earth is 2 days community service in the world of Formula One?
That's a PR sponsorship opportunity, isn't it?
Correct. You read my mind. I mean, maybe it's 2 days where he has to go and tell people not to drink drive, but it's not really a punishment.
No, I know what you mean.
But then again, I found myself thinking, well, what did I want? Did I want them to take away his second position? And I thought, well, something that happened off the track shouldn't really affect what happened on the track.
Yeah.
And likewise, if they'd sort of given him a back of the grid penalty for the next race, I wouldn't have been happy with that. So I don't really know what I want them to do. I just know that it's not acceptable.
Yeah. No, it's difficult because, especially with the media sensation that this all causes, does then, if nothing is done, because did that give him any penalty points on his license? Do you know?
I don't think so, but Beetlejuice has a nice idea, which was they should have allowed Ocon to choose his community service. That's justice I can get behind.
Old people's home, do it now. In the shitter.
Ah, Max, it is good to see you. Make sure to get behind the U-bend, my friend.
Get behind my chopper.
You will find the toilet duck in the left cupboard. Yeah, I would go for that.
Yes. That would be amazing. Or just feeding Bob Fernley. There we go. Just grapes.
Actually, there we go. That's the last bit of news to finish on. I was worried we were going to have to stretch out the Ocon thing to the end, because I think we've both made our opinions quite clear at this point.
Yeah.
Bob Fernley announced as the head of McLaren's IndyCar team.
Yes.
Which they, inside a month, announced they U-turned and decided that they were doing.
Yeah.
Just not for the full season. And Zach Brown says, "Oh well, people are saying that does this compromise our ability to run our Formula One team?" But I would say those people are worrying about nothing, and we're a big team with a lot of resources. And I was thinking, Jesus Christ, how long does McLaren have to be on its arse before you realise that that isn't enough? I do say Bob Fernley is an excellent appointment.
Yes.
If you're going to do it, if you're going to insist on doing it, he's the best man to run it, in my humble, very loud opinion.
Do you think it's setting up for a 2020 full McLaren effort?
Yes. And I still think we could, inside 5 years, see an F1 grid without McLaren on it.
Yeah. I strongly agree that I think this is the tenterhooks for branching out and seeing where else they can get just as much exposure with a sexy car, driven by the investors that have taken over that team and pushed it more and more into a boardroom corporate. It's always been a corporate team, McLaren, but it's always been driven and spearheaded by Ron speak and Ron Dennis and the way how he goes around doing things, and that's because it was driven through the passion of racing in a professional manner. For me now, it's become more of an investment brand company about where it can push its brand elsewhere, and at the back of the grid in a very expensive sport does not necessarily fulfill that for the stakeholder requirement.
Yeah, it's become a champagne brand.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fancy car manufacturer now, and it's all about prestige, and you're not going to get prestige at the back of the Formula One grid, even if I would argue you still deserve it. Nearly lost the front wing again there. So for me, like, IndyCar was kind of a surprising choice initially, but then I realised, first of all, it enables them to keep Alonso, which I think is important to them as a brand ambassador. But also, I think it's because their experience with fully electric vehicles is minimal, and they don't really have a partner who can make it happen for them.
That was on his last lap, by the way.
Yeah, I'm trying to let him through. Because I don't want to get a penalty now for ignoring blue flags. That would just be the salt in the wound. And so, you know, it seems to me that that Formula E would have been an alternative, but they're just not prepared to do it. They're not equipped.
Yeah.
Woo!
Well done, that man.
I still think, save for a small mistake that snowballed into a bigger mistake, I could have actually maybe got a point.
Yeah.
I think 10th was a realistic opportunity at one point.
I love how your AI car just immediately rear-ended Vettel after the race.
Yeah, well, that is what would happen. Obviously, it's learned from me. Yeah, I mean, I really think that running an IndyCar, a full IndyCar effort and a full Formula One team is too much for them to handle.
Yeah.
Running a full F1 team is too much for them to handle. And I do honestly think that McLaren could end up leaving Formula One. I think it's a very, very realistic possibility.
Yeah, agreed.
Whether they'll do well in IndyCar, it's hard to say, because Alonso did do very well at the Indy 500 last year, but he was running someone else's car painted in their colours, and it was run by experienced IndyCar staff. I don't know who McLaren are going to pick up to run the team. I mean, I know their Indy 500 effort coming up is going to be a partnership still.
Yeah.
Although it is like a McLaren... It is effectively a McLaren entry and a McLaren team, but they're getting support from another team. I forget which one. Yeah, the whole thing just doesn't bode well for the F1 effort. I think they've realised moving to Renault was stupid, that moving to a customer power unit was stupid, and that they don't really have a handle on this formula, and maybe they don't have the investor goodwill to hold things out until 2021.
Yeah.
That would be my assertion, and I don't know if other people agree. I'm sure there's plenty of people who will be listening or will watch this on replay who will facepalm or head desk or dick knife at me suggesting McLaren could walk away from Formula One, but genuinely, I think it's a real possibility, because their buttocks are pretty red raw. I think they've been thoroughly embarrassed this year.
Yeah.
And they had an embarrassing few years before that, but they always had someone to point to.
And now the finger is only for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been telling, actually, that they haven't once, to my knowledge, criticised Renault all season.
No. No.
So, yeah, I think they're aware that they've burned all their bridges, really, with the other engine suppliers, and they need to behave. To be honest with you, I'm a little astonished that they haven't already begun somehow winding things down. But I think it will be very much a carpet under the feet kind of deal. They'll just pull the rug without much warning.
Toyota-ish.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like Toyota or Jaguar or Honda or BMW before them, where arguably I would say McLaren fit in the same category as those brands as well. A premium car manufacturer.
Yeah.
Because I can honestly say I don't think F1 is helping their car sales at all. And I don't believe they're putting Renault units in their road cars.
Oh.
So
okay.
I don't know what the Renault tie-up really is doing. Not that it's a real tie-up, it's a genuine customer relationship. Also, what was interesting was I saw they were taking Chevrolet power units for their IndyCar entry, which shows how muddy the waters are with Honda, whether Honda wouldn't supply them or whether they just wouldn't ask. But McLaren Chevrolet, doesn't that just make you sick in your mouth a little bit?
It sounds... It's like taking some caviar and then chucking some Marmite on top.
I mean, it smacks very much of Zach Brown. And I don't want to stereotype him as, the cowboy hat wearing American, but it does seem very much yeehaw, let's get a Chevy, and that's kind of, to me, the antithesis of McLaren. It's not very McLaren. And I don't think IndyCar is a very McLaren series. I mean, I know previously they've been there, but given how the sports have evolved over time, like, when I think of McLaren, I think of high technology and high creativity. I just, I don't think of IndyCar.
No,
I'm not saying IndyCar isn't a complicated...
isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't strike me as precision focused, which McLaren always do. But
and it's never been intended to be that way. So I don't know if it's I don't know if they feel like they need to make their brand more birch and appealing to the man because it's gone to pink champagne-y. I don't know. Maybe that might be another reason.
I honestly think what it is that IndyCar is still a respected series, and deservedly so, but it is one that is arguably less technologically complex or puts less pressure on the organisation.
Yeah. Massively cheaper.
And that they have a genuine shot at winning a few races, at maybe even long-term winning outright.
Yeah.
And so, it costs a fraction to enter, and it's still very prestigious, and it helps them in their American market, which is the biggest market for their road cars. So it's a savvy move from a business sense, but I do think it compromises their Formula One entry massively.
Would you miss McLaren if they went?
That is an excellent question, because I found myself actually saying in my head, my gut instinct was no. But only because I'm thinking of McLaren as they are now, where I don't actually think they add much to the sport. And I think it's because I'm thinking of them as this year, because in terms of this year, they really have checked out.
Yeah.
They're kind of so embarrassed, they're pretty invisible. It's like Williams. Like, when I'm watching a race, they get so little camera time that would I notice if they weren't there? I'd be worried about losing another team, and I don't want the McLaren or the Williams name to disappear, but if I'm honest, would I actually miss their contributions to a Grand Prix weekend? At the moment, no. No, I wouldn't. But that said, I'm aware that that's very much an instinctual, short-term view, and of course I don't want them to leave Formula One.
On that
the
bombshell.
McLaren name, yeah, it's so synonymous. Yeah, but it is a bombshell, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely. That might be something we might have to pick up on another time, because our times are up, good sir. We still third in the Constructors' Championship, and we are now 6th and 7th in the Drivers, because Ricciardo has leapfrogged us. But very respectable job for our Force Failure duo.
It is indeed. One last comment from Beetlejuice. He says, unfair, McLaren contributes regularly to race weekends. Don't forget about Fernando's team radio.
True.
That is very true. I did overlook that contribution. You are correct.
But that's Nando going. Unless Carlos Sainz has got like a contractual requirement to get on the radio once a race and scream something like, "This Franto's like taco." I don't know.
I hope that is in his contract. To close out the episode, 6th and 7th in the Drivers is pretty solid, and I think we can probably equal third across the season to match our best season ever. I'm quite confident this year. I think the points gap between you and me is bigger than I would like, but hopefully I can begin addressing it from the next Grand Prix. Last year, I really thought I could win Canada, and I didn't because I fucked up, because I had pad problems, but I fixed those.
I remember.
And I'm feeling spicy coming into Canada, particularly because Monaco went so well, which sounds odd given that I finished 18th. But I had the pace for the points, really. So I'm feeling good. Thank you to everyone who joined live, everyone who watches on replay, everyone watching on Simon's channel. I hope all of you have an amazing rest of the weekend.
Yep, me too. Thank you all so much. We'll catch you in 2 weeks' time on Failcast F1. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Pip pip cheerio. Love you. Bye.